welcome for the program. My name is Tamás Marácsi, I work for the Danube Institute, and today we will discuss a very interesting topic. Not only the Silk Road is being built by the Chinese, but there is another project trying to connect the East and the West geopolitically, economically and other areas. It's called India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor. And the question is, what is the American interest in the IMEC project? My guest is from America, Runde, Director of the Project on Prosperity and Development at the Center for Strategic and International Studies. A long sentence, I'm sorry. Thank you very much for being here.
I'm really pleased to be here. I'm thrilled to be in Budapest. What a beautiful city. Love the food, and the weather's been great, and I'm really happy to be here.
And probably the podcast will be okay too.
Podcast will be great. Hope so. Hope it's the most listened to one.
Mr. Runde, thank you for the advertisement. And what is the American interest in IMEC? That's the most important.
I think, President Biden was an original supporter of IMEC, and President Trump has followed through. So this is there's bipartisan interest in seeing regional connectivity. I want to say a couple of things. One is that the IMEC couldn't happen, but you didn't have several things. You needed the fall of the Berlin Wall to reconnect Europe. You need the Abraham Accords, which was something that President Trump brought about in his first term. So in some ways, Ambassador Carlos Sanz was earlier saying, this is sort of unfinished business from the first Trump administration, and she's right. So the fall of the Berlin Wall, the Abraham Accords, which brings peace, and with it criticisms or not criticisms, the European Union project has been a very important part as well. If I look at Hungary, I look at Eastern Europe, much of the connectivity and prosperity has been brought about by the European Union, and I think so. The Berlin Wall, Abraham Accords, European Union, and I also would say the rise of India and the rise of middle powers in the Middle East, whether the strength of Israel, the strength of the UAE, changes in Saudi Arabia. So I think all of these things bring this about. So the American interest in this is to see an alternative to China. There's plenty of reconnecting projects. This is one of several. It's clear that the United States has an interest in this. I think we need to do a better job. I think there's an opportunity for the Danube Institute. I really want to congratulate the Danube Institute in convening this very important conference. I'm on the conference circuit, and I haven't seen something specifically around IMEC done in this ambitious way. So I think there's huge congratulations to the Danube Institute for convening this. And you have all the right people here. And I think that, in my mind, several things need to happen. One is we're going to have to make a very strong commercial case for why this needs to become about. I can see the geopolitical and the geoeconomic arguments, but we need a pure commercial argument that will keep the United States sustained interest in this. And we haven't yet put that together, and I think that's an opportunity for think tanks. We also need to create a timetable, and I also think a catalog, if I can describe it that way, of what actually needs to be done. So these are things that think tanks can do. There's a role for middle powers like Hungary, like India, like Israel, like Italy, to help UAE as well, to bring this and move this along in the meantime. There's a role for think tanks, certainly. And so I think the American interest is to see an alternative to Belt and Road, yes, for opportunities for commerce for American jobs and American workers, as well as also seeing greater peace and prosperity among folks that used to have tensions, including Israel and the Middle East. That's of great interest, but also to create more opportunities for prosperity in the world is a good thing.
I understand the geopolitical aspect from the American perspective, but I still don't see the real profit economically or by trade by the US, because if you see geographically, it's a corridor from India through the Middle East to Europe, but America is one ocean away from this.
Right, yes.
So where are you in this project physically and by trade?
So I think, if I think about this connectivity, it'll include rail, energy, including gas. It'll include roads. It'll include digital. And so all of these components could have incredible opportunities for the United States to sell products and services to help build some of this work, to help enable this to happen, whether through finance or insurance. So there's a series of business opportunities for the United States. Clearly, there's a geopolitical angle, as you've said, but I think we need to do a good job of making very clear the business opportunities to make this happen. We need timetables and we need a catalog of what needs to be done. I think think tanks like the Danube Institute could take this on as a major project. I think the Danube Institute and Hungary is well positioned to help convene this as a place that has relations all over the world and has good relations, with the United States, as part of the European Union, as part of NATO. So I think there's a lot of work that still need to be done, but I think the ultimate interest is not just a geopolitical interest, but a commercial interest, and we need to explicitly describe it, capture it, because I think that will help capture the imaginations and sustain interest going forward.
You mentioned Hungary. I wanted to talk about the latest question, but let's do it now.
Sure.
Because you mentioned the connectivity, which is the official strategy of the Hungarian government. Do you think it's a good position in this changing global world?
I think it is. I think it is important. I think that Hungary should be thinking about connectivity, whether it's through the Middle Corridor, which is a corridor that connects, which is also known as the Trans-Caspian Corridor, which connects Central Asia across the Caspian to Azerbaijan on through the Black Sea. So it's in Hungary's interest that there's a peace agreement between Ukraine and Russia so that this connectivity can happen. In one node of connectivity, there's also the connectivity, the north-south connectivity between I think it's the Three Seas Initiative, and to the extent that Hungary can be a part of that, that's important. And then I also think, as I look at this conference and the importance, the potential strategic node and interest of Trieste as a connector, which is in Italy, but was also part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and if you look on a map, which I just did, is quite close to Hungary, that so it's a very good policy for Hungary, and it also speaks to a larger foreign policy of engaging Asia and engaging Africa and Latin America. So I think Hungary as a small but important and significant country, and a significant country, having a connectivity strategy is a smart way to go. So I think I congratulate the Danube Institute, and I congratulate the organizers of this conference, because I think it's important. And there's bipartisan support in the United States for IMEC. But I think we need to have there's some other things that could happen that could help accelerate connectivity for Hungary, including a peace agreement between Russia and Ukraine and a peace agreement between Israel and Saudi Arabia.
But I tell you, one part of this conversation which can be criticized by the US government is a Chinese-Hungarian connection, which in this view of the new Chinese-American trade war or tariff war, there can be a sensitive point. But Hungary wants to be part of the IMEC too, which is the interest of America and other countries. But you mentioned, and explain why I mentioned the Chinese connection, because you yourself mentioned that this IMEC project is kind of an alternative to the Silk Road, the new Silk Road, the Road and Belt and Road initiative by the Chinese. Is it strictly alternative and a rival trade route, or maybe just two of them can exist together peacefully?
Look, I think the United States and China are going to have a tense, and that's not a technical word, but it's going to be very scratchy relationship between the United States and China going forward. We're going to look at the world through a lens of great power competition, and so it's going to impact how we look at how other people look at the world as well. Unfortunately, this is, I don't know if we're going to call it a second Cold War, but we might describe this as almost a second Cold War. I think President Trump, just in the last 12 hours, there's been this announcement of a potential breakthrough on trade with China. I think that's great in the short to medium term. No one wants to get into a physical shooting war with China and the United States. It's not in our interest. We hope and pray that they don't invade Taiwan and they don't, physically cut off Taiwan. And so I think one role Hungary can play is to message to China, please don't invade Taiwan, please don't cut off Taiwan, given that you have connectivity. We have diplomatic relations with China, we have diplomatic relations with Hungary. So I do think we don't want a world where everybody's number one trading partner is China. We don't want a world where the rules are set by China, the standards and rules are set by China, and the global system is where China has overall hegemonic influence. That is not in our interest, and I would argue it's not in Hungary's interest. Hungary's, I think countries that care about religious liberty or that care about economic freedom and don't like communism, this all describes Hungary and should describe the United States, and should not want a world controlled by a communist party that oppresses religion and also makes all sorts of decisions about whether you can move from one place to another and has too much control over freedom of expression and freedom of religion and freedom of coming together, freedom of association. These are all things that I think are important to Hungary and important to the United States and important to Europe. So having said all that, IMEC one of the problems is that Belt and Road is a fabulous idea. It's a big, positive, forward-looking agenda that speaks to the hopes and aspirations of billions of people, speaks to the hopes and aspirations of more than 100 countries, which allows them to, there's more than 100 countries that join Belt and Road because it's a fabulous idea. So we have to own the fact that this is a great idea. I just wish the United States has thought of it. So I think
IMEC will be the new idea.
Maybe IMEC can be. We have to put some meat on the bones, and we have to do the work. We have to do the work.
At this point, may I do a quotation here? One expert wrote this about the IMEC and the American interest. Strategic opportunity for the US to maintain influence and reassure traditional partners amidst China's growing influence in the region. Is it a true notion?
I was hoping you were going to say that was me that said that, but I wish I did.
It could be.
Could be, but it's not.
Because you wrote a book, it's very similar.
I wrote it, yeah. I hope you all go out and buy my book. It's called The American Imperative, Reclaiming Global Leadership Through Soft Power. And so we've done a lot of work at CSIS on physical infrastructure and development finance. We did a major commission about 6 years ago on thinking about infrastructure and the United States' role in it globally. So I would just say, yes, that quote is true. But I think for us to sustain interest, we're going to need help. We're going to need help of Hungary. We're going to need the help of Israel. We're going to need the help of UAE. We're going to need the help of Italy. We're going to need the help of Saudi Arabia to sustain interest in this. We have a lot of other things in our inbox. So in my mind, let's make the commercial case. What's the size of the infrastructure? What are the physical projects needed? What are the business association opportunities with that? What are the commercial benefits of IMEC in terms of, are we going to cut the amount of cost of trade down? Are we going to accelerate the amount for transit? Make the business and commercial case, put together a catalog of the projects needed for this, and then let's put a timetable to it. These are all things that think tanks can help with. I think the Danube Institute is well positioned, having taken first mover advantage of this. I want to congratulate the organizers of this conference. So I think this is an important thing. Hungary, as a government, can play a role in this. Yeah, so I want the United States to remain the preeminent power for the next 100 years. I don't want China leading the world. And I would argue that Hungary and the Hungarian government, the Hungarian people, ultimately will not want China to ultimately lead the world.
Yeah, but China offers a cheap and fast service for many developing countries. Maybe the Global South is worth to mention here. Your book title is American Imperative, Reclaiming Global Leadership Through Soft Power.
Available on Amazon.
That's a counter advertising.
Right, thank you.
I'm doing it for free.
Thank you.
But Mr. Runde, the question is, what can you offer as a U.S.? What can the U.S.
we
offer?
We have to enable a better offer
to reclaim the.
So I think you're asking the absolute right question. You've clearly done your homework and thinking about this. We have to enable we need to enable a more compelling offer. So that's somewhat on us. We, the United States, cannot do this alone. We need friends. We need partners. So I think IMEC needs to be a collective work, collective exercise. And I think that I know that President Trump has signaled, President Biden was supportive of IMEC, and it was something I think that in the Biden administration was sort of brought about, arguably, and President Biden was there at the first kind of signing or the kickoff of this. So there's there's arguably a bipartisan interest in this. And so my hope and belief is that we have to collectively work to create that more compelling alternative. We're going to have to do, so you're right. They are oftentimes faster, cheaper, and meet minimum quality standards. And so we can't fight something with nothing. That's what we would say in English. So what's our something? IMEC could be part of our something, but we're going to have to do, there's a lot of work it's a great idea. We now have to kind of sharpen the vision, create a catalog, create a timetable, and create the commercial, make sure we elucidate the commercial opportunity here, or we're not going to sustain interest in this.
Mr. Runde, let's finish with two questions and two players here, because we mentioned Hungary and a little bit European, and we mentioned America, but we need to talk about India, and we need to talk about one question and about the Middle East. First, India. India is kind of a neutral superpower. Many lecturers here in the Danube Institute was talking about India as a next rising star, the next superpower, but it's a neutral country. It doesn't take sides in a conflict of the West and East. It wants to be friends with the US, Russia, China, just stay out of the order of the conflict. The straight question, does America want, by this IMEC project, to get India closer to the Western allies? This is the reason, this is maybe the explanation for geopolitically why the US supporting this project?
So I think it's the United States wants to see a more, across administrations, Republican and Democratic administrations, there's been increasing and sustained interest in deepening our ties with India, of finding ways for India to participate in helping solve big global problems, whether it's through the Quad or through other arrangements. So IMEC is a logical follow-on to sort of this sustained effort over at least almost 20 years now, since really the Bush 43 administration. There's been significant efforts, and President Trump made significant efforts with India. President Biden did the same thing. President Obama did the same thing. So I expect that this is part of a bipartisan effort across administrations. So I think India can and should play an important role. I know there's a significant presence of Indian representation here at the Danube Institute's conference, and so I think that's very welcome.
And my last question, the last two players, actually three, Israel, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. Exactly those players, what the previous Trump administration wanted to be an ally, new alliance of the US against Iran, a Sunni American-Israeli kind of alliance in the Middle East, compensating the Iranian influence. And we see the same players here. But what the US needs is just a reconciliation between the Arabic states, mostly Saudi Arabia and Israel, a state recognition, of course. And the whole alliance is all together again. Is this some big picture in this story?
As I said earlier, you needed the Abraham Accords. So one of the great legacies of the first Trump administration was the enabling of the Abraham Accords. I don't think if it wasn't for President Trump's diplomatic efforts, there wouldn't have been the Abraham Accords. And so you have peace agreements now with a number of countries in the Middle East. The big prize is a Abraham Accord between Israel and Saudi Arabia. If you look at the IMEC map, clearly it would help quite a lot if you had a peace agreement between Israel and Saudi Arabia. But given Israel's strategic location and given where it is on the map, there's a significant opportunity for the Abraham Accords makes possible the more regional connectivity in the Middle East than ever possible. There's also been some other changes, whether it's in Syria or the changes in the last 10 to 15 years in Saudi Arabia. all these make it possible for regional connectivity to happen. So the Abraham Accords are important. The strength and dynamism of the Israeli economy, the innovation and technology that Israel has is really one of the world's marvels. I think the reforms and changes that are happening in Saudi Arabia also make this possible. So the Middle East is changing, and my hope is that we will see another peace agreement between Israel and Saudi Arabia. Regional connectivity will be a major benefit of it. Commerce and I think we should also make the economic case for peace. We should be saying, if you have peace between Israel and Saudi Arabia, let me show you the connectivity that'll happen. Let me show you the economic benefits that'll happen. Let me show you the commercial opportunities that are possible. We need to make the economic, not just the geopolitical case for peace.
Yeah. Thank you for the information, and thank you for the conversation.
Thank you. I'm so impressed. I'm so happy to be here in Budapest, and I'm so appreciative of the Danube Institute for organizing this important conference.
Thank you very much. And thank you for the attention. Bye-bye. See you next week.